You had two additional members to the group then. Are you taking them to Holland again?
No, well, they've left. You see that we've got a keyboard player in at the moment instead, because mainly because Steve, who's the trumpet player, he's got his own group, and he really wanted to leave to sort of concentrate on that. So that was it really. So we just got to keep up this guy Jim Telford. He's just got him just for the tour, and he'll be coming to Europe as well.
Influence the sound of Jam.
Well, the keyboards.
Yeah.
I don't think it does really. We've sort of fit it in with really, he's sort of fit in with us. It wasn't really like the brass, because the brass we sort of worked around and actually made parts for it. Whereas the keyboard was like a really last minute thing, because Steve let us down about a week before we come on this tour. Who was the trumpet player. So we really, Jim's just sort of fit in with what we're doing, I mean, mostly it's just on the obvious things like sort of town called Marriage with the organ sound and stuff like that,
And I think with some horns to it, it sounds more like, more soulful bands, like the old American soul stuff. And do you think you get the same effect with keyboards?
It's different. I mean, we're doing a different set anyway. For a start, we're playing a lot of old stuff, which we haven't done for like 2 years or something. So we've done the whole set is really based on all the stuff we've done in the last sort of 5-6 years, which gives it's got a different kind of sort of different feel anyway. I mean, we've all been playing with a lot more sort of I don't know, like anger and just more enthusiasm on this tour. It's a little bit like going back to sort of like 3 or 4 years or something.
Could you tell me the reason why you did it? Because I read in an interview that the band was not willing to do some old numbers. What was the reason for this change?
Well, we always like to surprise people anyway, regardless of what we say, you know what I mean? But also, I think probably the main reason was because we was dropped in the shit, because the brass players left, you know what I mean? So really, we couldn't do any new material, at the time, because we didn't have a chance to rehearse it or anything with the new player. So really, that was the main reason. But as it's turned out, we're really enjoying it anyway. Just, practically all these gigs on this tour have been just sort of so different. There's just like new kind of enthusiasm. I sort of hear it more as being a little bit more, sort of soulful, a little bit more like a sort of soul ballad. But the idea behind doing it was just to totally get away from like, I suppose like the way that the gift was sort of quite heavy, lyrically and that, and just to do something different. Like I can't stand getting tagged with anything. I think once you get sort of tagged, once you've got some kind of categorisation, you've had it really. So I just like to sort of keep changing and doing something different. So I just I just set out to write just a real old-fashioned tearjerker, you know what I mean? There's no political meaning behind it, there's nothing behind it. It's not even like a personal experience, it's just a pure sort of made-up song, do you know what I mean?
Yeah, somebody from the grave was looking at the wedding of his wife, is that right?
Yeah, but there's to me like a lot of that stuff's really funny, but because I try to make a lot of sort of very melodramatic lines in it, which I don't think people really see the humour in, you know what I mean? Or, I don't know. There's like a line which says, "Now autumn's breeze blows summer's leaves through my life," which I find quite amusing, because I think it's so, to me it's obviously melodramatic.
Could you say that again, please?
Look at the line.
Yeah.
"Now autumn's breeze blows summer's leaves through my life."
Oh yeah.
It's just my sense of humour, I suppose, but people take it so seriously. Everything we say, they never look further than that, which is a shame, because the record got criticised a lot when it, like the reviews and that, because they said it was like sombre and miserable, but it wasn't really meant to be like that. It's just, I can see a lot of humour in it, but obviously other people can't.
The groups and a live album after a lot of studio albums is a point or a period after a certain musical period. Does that also count for the Jam?
What do you mean? What, like a sort of like a sign as a sort of change?
Yeah.
I'm not necessarily with this one. I don't think. No. I don't think so. I don't think it works that way. It's just like our company, record company, been on about doing a live LP for ages, which we were always like really against, because we thought the idea was pretty, was a little bit boring. But I think the way we're going to do it is to have like different, not just one gig, but like different tracks from all over the years. I just think it'd be a little bit more interesting. But I don't really see any kind of sort of watering shed, whatever the expression is. It's just going to be more like a retrospective, I suppose. What we've done.
Well, that could be a sign for something new to come.
Possibly, yeah, possibly. Put it this way, we're not conscious of what the new thing is yet. For a lot of our early stuff, and it was like I found that, and I got to a point where, say, like setting sun, where a lot of stuff was really depressing, I thought. It was very sort of, very sort of tunnel vision. It was like, they were just like plain statements and never went any further than that, I just got fed up with it. I just got fed up with myself, sort of thinking that way and writing that way, So now I just try and look a little bit past, like the present situation, however bad it is, because I don't see any other way, you know what I mean? If you can't look past it and see anything better at the end of it, then like, what else is there, I'd never write another song if I'd done that, you know what I mean? Or you just, people just wouldn't go on living, So I think you've got to, I know, I suppose in some ways it might be a little bit sort of blind faith, but at the same time, I think you just got to believe in something a little bit more, You just got to look past all of what's happening at the moment.
Well, if I would be cynical, I would say, doesn't it sounds a bit like escapism?
Well, it depends what you do about it. I don't see it as escapism because I hate escapism anyway. I think it depends what you try and do about the situation. It does sound easy for me to sort of say it, but it's just down to people. It's up to them to sort of change it. It's like I said in like Town Called Malice and stuff like that. I think it's a question of people realising that their own strength, or the strength that they have, together. But I said, I suppose it's easy to say. That's how I feel. I think if everyone felt that, then it'd be different. You know what I mean?
Do you have any contact with fans in which it states that they really get the message that you're trying to put out?
Yeah, sometimes we do. But I don't think live gigs are like a fair kind of picture of how much we're achieving. Because sometimes it gets a little bit like a sort of football match, with like sort of singing and chanting and stuff. So I try and not really gauge it on that. I would say, I think you probably get through to a minority in a really big way. Do you know what I mean? Mm-hmm. You can tell that like the music sort of is just more than than just like enjoyment or listening, or just music. That it goes past that stage. It actually sort of affects them, and they try and do something about their lives. And like I said, even though it's a minority, I still think it's worth it because at least it's like anything. It's like me being influenced by something. It's like me like reading a book, and being influenced by it, and maybe it can improve my life or the way I think, And I just think that's what life's all about anyway. I think we can, you can only really learn off each other. Do you know what I mean? And any kind of influence, depending on which way it affects you and what you do about it.
Have you got the impression that things are getting better in England? Do you think that people are getting more and more self-conscious about the situation?
No, I don't think so really. I'd like to. There's certain things. So like there was like a day of action, like a general strike the other week for the nurses. Like some of the unions come out in sympathy. So something like that's encouraging. I think that's quite optimistic. But at the same time, you've got something like the Falklands, where everyone went crazy and started waving flags and, and like all this sort of, kill the Dagos and all this crap and that, So England's like that, do you know what I mean? It's like it's always been sort of built on that hypocrisy, isn't it? At one time it stands for democracy and the right and truth and that, and at the same time it's, there's all these like skeletons in the cupboards. So I think fundamentally, that, British people are some is like most people. I think they're basically pretty good. They mean well. But I just think there's just a lot of bullshit. You've got to clear away in England before you really get something done. You've got to stop believing like or start realising that the empire doesn't exist anymore. You know what I mean? Mm-hmm. And just like getting on with it and getting on with life. It's like all these crappy politicians we got here. It's just like a lot of old women. They talk about like nothing, just going in circles instead of just like getting on and really dealing with the real issues, which is just like day-to-day living, To me, it's like 24 hours, you know what I mean? Because I'm all the time I'm thinking about things anyway. But if I get any time, I'm just with my girlfriend or my friends, just in London. That's it, basically, really. Maybe just, I don't do anything in particular. Watch telly, go out, maybe a couple of times a week. So I just try and keep it. I try and keep it as simple as possible. You know what I mean? Which isn't always possible, but I just try and avoid all the obvious sort of extravagances. And I think it's the only way you can, if you want to stay sane, and as normal as possible. I think it's the only way you can do it, really. You're never going to be like, you're going to be like the sort of, like the average Joe on the street. But that's the reason why I started music, right? Because I didn't, if I wanted to do a 9-to-5 job, I'd have done that, not music. I didn't want to do that.
But extravagant things like Mick Jagger does, riding around in big automobiles. And
But I mean, he obviously wants it, do you know what I mean? So, I mean, that's what I was trying to say, but it's down to the individual. I mean, you know, like Rolls Royce doesn't appeal to me, and I don't really want one, you know what I mean? So therefore it doesn't, I think it's just in the basic character, really, it's what you want out of life.